All right, looks like we're going live. All right, we'll give everyone a few minutes to hop in. Got all the essentials, my Diet Coke. I'll put that over here. A whole bunch of stuff to show everyone today. We'll put some over here. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you're all coming in. We'll wait a few minutes for everyone to pop in, and I'll kind of wait. Hey, Ashley. Hello. How's it going? It is so bright out here today, so I'm gonna have to wear my sunglasses or I'll be squinting. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Amy Beth. How's it going? It's good to see you all. We'll give everyone just a little bit of time before we dive in to our discussion today on weeds. Jenny, love your outfit. Yeah, you know, July 4th is one of my favorite holidays. It might be my absolute favorite holiday. So I'm all in. I got the bracelets, I got the nails, I got the earrings. That this little girl, she was going around town. She 3D printed stuff, so I bought some things from her. It was so cute. Happy Thursday, Skylar. I know, it's almost Friday. Almost Friday. All right, let's see. We'll give everyone just probably like one more minute just to hop in. We'll give Nick the chance to kind of get it streaming across all of our different platforms, and then we will dive right into weeds. My bane of my existence. I have a high tolerance level for like disease and insects, but I have very little tolerance of weeds. Ashley says she needs to get rid of nutsage. It's going to be the death of me. Oh, yep. There's some tough ones. I have morning glory. I have mallow everywhere. So there's some pretty crazy ones here too. So, okay. Hi. Let's see if I can say your name right. Krimti Kendi Teo. I'm sorry if I botched that, but it's a beautiful name. Hello. Welcome. Hi, Trisha. All right, let's dive in. I think we gave everyone a couple minutes like how to pop in, and this will be recorded and will be available for watching later too. First of all, I'm sorry we missed my live the last couple weeks. Last week I was ready to do it, and Facebook had an outage all day, so we couldn't even post. It was kind of a crazy day, so we decided to postpone it. So this is the continuation of the Gypsy Garden series. So you guys are going to be watching me plant a brand new cut rose garden using Gypsy roses. And last time we talked about doing soil analysis. So I sent a soil test off to my Utah State Extension. I'm waiting for that to get back. I think I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do, but it'll be interesting to see in more detail if the at-home tests are pretty close to what a professional test would be. So the next step, the things that you can do if you're doing a soil test and you're waiting, I'm going to do a lot of prep work this summer. Here in Utah, we're having a severe drought. We're only having irrigation water 1 or 2 days a week here. You can use culinary water here to water with, but it is more expensive. So I'm going to do all the planting in the fall. So this summer, we're going to space out my lives a little bit longer. We're going to do them kind of every other week. And so you're going to get to watch me this summer do all the prep work, and then we'll do the planting in the fall together. So today I want to talk about weeds and what we can do as gardeners to be proactive and use preventative measures, because what we all do most of the time, including myself, is we're like, oh, I'm just gonna like maybe pull some weeds and dig a hole and plant it and hopefully put some weed barrier and some mulch down and hopefully that'll be good enough. That's what most people do. And oftentimes that's not enough to stop it. So I want to talk about some ways, a couple things today we're going to talk about. Number one, we're going to talk about really truly identifying your weeds and knowing your enemy, because when you know exactly your primary weeds that you're dealing with in your garden, it's going to just give you some tools in your toolbox. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about, I have my little chart here. We're going to talk about some like basic herbicide 101. We're going to talk about some different types of herbicides so you understand the differences between them. And we'll go through all of that step. I'll show you a few examples, but really the tools is for you to have some knowledge in your pocket when you're going to the store to maybe select something, whether you want to go organic or whether you want to do traditional. We'll walk through all of that together. Okay. So let's dive right in. So let's see. Let's talk about weed identification. I forgot to bring my books out. I was going to bring, you guys know I love books. I'm a big fan of books. I'll post links to the books that I'd like to use for weeds in my own yard. There's one, generally you can buy weed books that are based on location. So there's a book called Weeds of the West that I like to use. When I was living in upstate New York, there's a book called Weeds of the Northeast. It's super helpful in identification because a lot of people think every type of weedy grass is crabgrass or Bermuda grass, but a lot of times it could be something that looks very similar, but could be very different. And it's really important that you get really good identification of what your weeds are. What that's going to do is a few things. Number one, it's going to tell you the life cycle of that weed and how it propagates. You know, there are some grasses that spread by rhizomes underneath the soil. And then there's some grasses that spread by seeds primarily. There are some weeds that are annual, which their entire life cycle happens in 1 year. They germinate in the spring, they flower, they set seed, they drop the seed, and the seed germinates in the spring. Then there's perennial weeds, which come back year after year. And most of the time, perennial weeds germinate in the fall. And so really having a list of what weeds you have is the best place to start before you even start your garden. And so in the past, true identification, you know, I would use my books. You could take them to an extension office that's near you, get a plant nerd near you. But there's a really cool tool, and I'm sure all of you have started using it, but Google Lens is an incredible tool for plant identification. I tested it in my yard. I know the weeds in my yard, and I went around like, oh, wow, it was accurate. It's not always 100%, but it's pretty close. I suggest using your Google Lens and asking, what is this weed and what is its life cycle? You want to know, is it an annual or perennial? And you want to know how it propagates itself. Those are the tools that you're going to need in order to select the right herbicide and also when to apply. You know, a lot of people just kind of think of doing weed control just in the spring and they're done. But the reality is a lot of weed prevention happens in the fall. So that's the start. So I really suggest that you truly identify the weeds that you're going to have issues with before you even begin. So, part of the Gypsy garden that I'm going to be planting, I have a lot of mallow in that garden. I have a lot of sedges, and I have some crabgrass and morning glory. So I need to know what those things do. How do they act, so that I know that instead of just pulling them up and tilling them and hope for the best, I can be a little more proactive. Because just like we talked about when you're choosing soil for your roses, how giving them a good start, like prep work, is 90% of the battle, right? If you take care of your soil, if you know what weeds you're going to have problem with ahead of time, then you're going to save yourself literally hundreds of hours of work and lots of money down the pipeline if you just do a little bit of preemptive work. So use Google Lens, or get you a good weed book, or take your weeds to the extension office and really understand, are they annual, are they perennial, and how do they spread? Are they going to spread through their stems? Because if they spread through their stems, then if you till it up and all of those stems are in there, you literally just seeded your entire bed with weed reproductive organs. So it's really important that you understand that. And there's not very many times that I use any sort of non-organic or traditional chemicals in my yard, but weed control is the one time I'll dip into it because prevention is the best method. So let's dive a little bit into herbicides first, and then we're going to talk about some untraditional ways, non-organic ways that you can remove sod and weeds if you don't want to use chemicals. So this is definitely not to convince you to use any sort of herbicide. It's just to give you the tools in your toolbox as you go shopping and thinking about what your budget is and how much time you have and what your philosophy is of gardening. We all do it a little different and what we feel comfortable doing. So so let's just talk about that. So that way you're armed with knowledge. So let's talk about, there's really 4 terms that you need to know when it comes to herbicides. Herbicides, I don't know if you can read this okay. I hope you can. At the top here, there's 2 types of emergence. There's pre-emergence and there's post-emergence. So pre-emergence are herbicides that prevent seeds from germinating, just seeds, not bits and pieces of roots, but seeds. So what they do is they all act a little bit differently, but in general, as the seed starts to germinate, it gets in contact with that and it dies. So pre-emergence are one of, I think, the safest ways to prevent weeds, especially weeds that are perennial and annual and drop seeds all through the season. A good pre-emergent is a really, really good preventative, especially with things like morning glory and lots of annual weeds, dandelions, and perennial weeds like mallow. Post-emergence are anything you use on a plant after it has already emerged from the soil. It's already growing. You have weeds in your soil, you have weeds in your garden, so you're going to have to use a post-emergent. Okay, so basically pre-emergent is before the plant starts growing, it's going to prevent it from growing, and post-emergence is killing it after it starts growing. So it's important you understand there's pre-emergent, post-emergent. Okay. The other 2 terminologies that you need to understand is selective and non-selective. So selective herbicides are formulated for only killing certain plants. So you can think of this as like when you go out and there's specific sprays you can spray in your lawn just to kill the broadleaf weeds, but it doesn't kill your grass. That's selective, right? And there's also the opposite. There's products you can use that can kill grass that don't affect broadleaf plants like roses. So those are considered selective herbicides where there's a very specific list of plants it will kill and plants it can be used around. And they can be very, very helpful in an established garden to help you eradicate weed pressure around desirable ornamentals. Okay. Then there's non-selective. This is the Roundup group of family of products. It will kill anything it touches to some degree. It doesn't select. It's not formulated that way. It's not the chemical that does it. And actually, they're really like kind of like hormones. They just basically make them grow so fast that their cells burst and they die. So it's just non-selective. Okay, so does that make sense? Pre-emergent is a preventative that prevents weeds from coming. Post-emergent is something you use after weeds come up. Selective herbicides are ones that only target certain types of plants. Generally, it's grasses and broadleaf. Generally, those 2 sit in 2 different buckets. And then there's non-selective, which are herbicides that will kill anything it touches. So let's go through each one. The second thing I want to talk about is like, you can see here, I have these cute little rose magnets. There's organics of all of these and there's traditionals of all these. So organic could be, you can find organic pre-emergence, you can find organic post-emergence, you can find organic non-selective, okay? So whether or not something is organic or traditional moves about, okay? So let's talk a little bit about each one and how to use them and what makes them successful. So why don't we talk about some traditional and organic pre-emergence first, okay? I have a sample of a traditional. I don't have organic with me. I looked for it here locally, but I couldn't find it. So it'd be something I'd have to order online. So a lot of times you've probably heard of Preen. Preen is probably the most well-known brand. I'm not here to promote any specific brand, but it's just as a way to show you this is what I have locally available to me. Preen is pre-emergent. It's a granular. This one happens to have plant food. I don't like using the ones with plant food. I actually have another one that's just pre-emergent because I've always found it kind of silly that you put a fertilizer and a weed preventer in at the same time. I don't know. There's something that's kind of funny about that. But most pre-emergents that you find for homeowner use are granulated. They're usually something in a shaker of some sort. These ones are most likely going to work on broadleaf weeds, okay? So this is, you know, a traditional, it's a chemical that's used, that's formulated, that prevents seeds from germinating. Now, the timing on something like this, as you can imagine, is really critical. The only way it works is if it's in the soil when the seed is germinating, actively germinating. It doesn't like kill it if it's dormant. It has to be actively germinating in order for it to be effective. So as you can imagine, timing is super, super important. So in my garden, I have almost all perennial weeds. And when I did my research on when they germinate, they all germinate in the fall. So putting a preventative for me in the garden where I'm going to put my roses in the fall is going to be the best method. Now, can I put it in the spring as well? Do perennial weeds germinate in the spring? Some of them will. It'll be based on that specific variety of weed that you have. That's why it's so important to understand your weeds before you just start putting chemicals down, because a lot of times you can capture most of it with the least amount of input if you simply time it right. So for me, I'm going to be putting Preen in at the very end of summer, right before the cooler weather starts, because that's what triggers perennial weeds to germinate. They like to germinate, get their roots established in the fall, so in the next spring that they can flower and start to reproduce. Okay, so keep that in mind. Preventatives, vital that you understand when your seeds germinate. You can't just put it down once and hopefully it lasts forever and will always be there. So this is a traditional one. Now, organic, there is an organic one that I've used in the past. I used it when I had a huge vegetable garden while I was going to school at Utah State, and it's called cornmeal. It's made from cornmeal. And cornmeal has a really interesting preventative properties to it. Doesn't work on all weeds, but it did quite a bit of control for me. And so I felt more comfortable using something like that around things that I was going to eat or around where dogs or children are going to play. So that is available. I'm sorry, it's a corn gluten, if I remember right. I wish I had some. I need to order some online. I don't do that in my vegetable garden here because I use a black plastic in my vegetable garden here because I need that heat reflecting at night, because the nights get really cold here in the desert. So I use a different form of weed control in my vegetable garden. So there are different types, traditional and organic pre-emergence. Okay. Any questions on pre-emergence? I'm going to look here. I'm sorry I have to wear my sunglasses. It's like so bright. Let's see. Explains why we see the crazy growth with herbicides. It all makes so much sense when Heidi explains. I didn't realize how clueless I was. Oh, Trisha, you're not clueless. We're all just learning. Let's see if there's any. Let's see. Holiday says, I only know of Preen for pre-emergent. Okay, my husband uses a blowtorch. Yeah, I mean, Beth, you can use, lots of people use blowtorch. You have to be really careful if you live in a desert, especially if there's fire restrictions. But fire is a great natural way to burn off weeds in large sections. Doesn't kill it to the root, but it will kill the tops. And for a lot of weeds, that's enough to kill it. But for some, it's not. So yeah, fire, you can literally buy fire throwers for burning up weeds. Okay, let's see if there's anything else here. Hi, Carrie. Looks like Carrie just joined us. Okay, all right. Let's go to post-emergence, okay? So post-emergence are either selective or non-selective. So let's talk a little bit about each one of these. Let's talk first about traditional selective. Sorry, I gotta put this plastic bag down on my seat because it actually rained here in Utah yesterday. It never rains and my chairs are wet. So let's talk about selective herbicides that are traditional. So examples of that would be, you've probably heard of this product. Once again, this is not me suggesting any specific brand. There's lots of different brands out there, but Weed Be Gone is one. Says weed killer for lawns ready to use. Okay, so for use on many northern and southern lawns. It's also important to note that lawns in the north and the south can have completely different grass, right? There's cool season grasses and warm season grasses. So generally, if you're buying herbicides from your local garden center, they're going to have the right type for you. But this is selective. It will not kill grass. It will only kill broadleaf. So if you were to go around your rose garden and spray this, think of your rose leaves. Are they grass-like or are they broadleaf? Do you think that this could damage it? It can. So you have to be really careful of using this and drift around roses because this type of selective herbicide is designed not to hurt grasses, but to damage broadleaf plants. Okay. There's lots of different kinds of selective herbicides out there. There's some like brush killers that are like really heavy duty, better for like woody type plants. There's all sorts of different chemical families in the selective range. This is probably the most common one because people like to kill their dandelions out of their lawn. But that means that's selective, and that's a traditional type of herbicide. Let's show you another selective herbicide. I've always liked this. There's a couple companies that make it. Fertilome makes one. I think High Yield makes one. This is called Over the Top 2. And this is designed to kill grass, but not broadleaf plants. So it's selective, right? It doesn't kill things that are broadleaf. It's just going to kill grass. So this can be used amongst ornamentals, listed ornamentals for listed grasses. Okay, so anytime you buy a grass killer that says like Over the Top, or there's a couple different commercial names for it, just read through the list of, once again, it's good to know for sure what weed you have, right? Because they have a every single label. You should read every label that you get. You should not use it if it's not labeled for it, because these people spend, I can't even imagine how many millions of dollars on research just for this little booklet. This little booklet is required by law, and it'll tell you every single type of plant it kill, and it won't kill anything else. At least it's not listed for it. Okay, so it'll tell you what you can use it around and what grasses it will kill. So, this one says it's intended for residential use on and around flowers, evergreen shrubs, trees, fruits, vegetables, ornamental ground covers, and bedding plants. And so you can literally go, it'll say, see table 2. A lot of times when you're reading this, you want to actually go through and say, okay, table 2, here's fruits and vegetables. Let's see if I can find the woody. I love that they make them so tiny. Another thing is you can always find these online too. They have them all listed. So if you want to look at it bigger on a PDF or on your phone, you can always find the little information packet. So let's go to tolerant plants and let's see if roses are on here. Should have brought my glasses. I'm getting too old to read such small stuff. Tilia, cornus, purple leaf, sand cherry, weeping fig. Let's see if roses are on here. Of course, they don't have ABCDH and MLP, QRS. I do not see rose listed on here. That is super interesting. Oh, that was under trees. Sorry, no wonder. All right, let's go under shrubs. It's funny where sometimes people put roses. That's usually under shrubs. Let's see if roses is on here. We're going to find out together. Privet, purple hopbush, pyracantha, rhododendron, flame, sand cherry, raspberry, star plant, spirea, flower. I actually don't see roses listed on here. Let's see if it's under ornamentals. Sometimes they put roses under ornamentals. Purple, raspberry, sea pinks, sedum, shrimp plant. It's funny, I don't see this one listed for roses. Tolerant plant ground covers. Okay, so like this particular one, I would not put around roses. I wouldn't risk it. If they didn't list it, I wouldn't risk it. So always make sure you open that book and read. Don't just trust what's on the outside. You always want to read on the book what's in there. Doesn't mean it can't work among other perennials for you. But that's a lesson on selective. Okay, so our selective traditional herbicides, you can have like a grass killer that doesn't kill broadleaf and a broadleaf that doesn't kill grass. Okay, and all sorts of mixes in between. Got to read the label. It's really important that you do that. Are there organic selectives? Not that I know of. That's a good question. I don't think there's anything organic that's selective other than mechanically not removing them. If anyone knows of anything, please share it here. Generally, organic herbicides that we're going to talk about next are mostly non-selective because of their mode of action, like how they actually work. So let's go over to that. Let's go over to non-selective, and let's talk about some traditional ones and some organic ones. There are lots of these, lots and lots of these, and they can be super confusing for consumers. You've probably all heard of the word Roundup, the name Roundup, right? That's probably the most famous non-selective traditional herbicide out there. Roundup will kill pretty much anything it touches. It's especially good at killing grass. It's moderately good at broadleaf weeds. Some broadleaves it does really good on, some it doesn't. So Roundup. So the way that these work is they will actually, they're systemic. So what happens, you spray it on the foliage. You have to use this type to go through the foliage, and the plant has to actively be growing for it to work. Another thing that's really important for you to read in your little booklets is the temperature that needs to be outside for it to work and the season. So Roundup is really only active during certain temperatures, because the way that it works is the plant has to actively be growing, because it basically makes the plant grow so fast it kills itself. It's systemic, so it gets absorbed into the plant and will move all the way down through the root system. So these types of herbicides will kill to the root. Okay, that's why they're so popular, because most of the time this one's are ready to use. Literally, you just unplug it and just go out and spray. Of course, there are concentrates, all sorts of concentrates. There's all sorts of, if you have larger and you want to mix your own. So there's all sorts of brands, right? You guys know I kind of like Fertilome. I've always been a big fan of Fertilome and High Yield. I think they're like really specific on what they do without just being broad spectrum everything. A lot of times, like the big box store and like the big name brands, they're like very generic. And I really like Fertilome and High Yield because they're very specific, and you're not putting chemicals in the ground just to put chemicals on. So Fertilome has one called Decimate. It's a weed and grass killer. This is a non-selective traditional herbicide. This one's a concentrate where you have to mix. And so a little tip and trick I always like to tell people, if you're going to mix your own into a pump sprayer, always dedicate, put your pump sprayers into 4 different categories. Okay, you want one pump sprayer that will be something like this, a non-selective herbicide. Then you want one that's for things like this. So sometimes you'll see things that say extended control, Roundup, or ground clear. There's all sorts of names for it. These types of non-selective herbicides not only kill what's there, but they have a preventative that also resides in the soil that prevents any more from coming up. Super duper important, as you can imagine, to not mix these up when you're spraying. This is something I use like in gravel driveways or like in sidewalks, someplace where I don't want anything to ever grow again, right? Anything that says that extended control on it. This is a non-selective herbicide with a non-selective pre-emergent in it, okay? So be very careful with that compared to a non-selective herbicide that will just kill what's there and does not reside in the soil. After you spray a product like Roundup, or in this case, Decimate, you can usually plant within 3 to 7 days. Read your label. Everyone's different. It has no residual effect because it has to go through the foliage. This one is through the foliage and sits in the ground. It can be taken up by roots. So very different modes of action, right? So when if you have pump sprayers and you definitely want to have your Roundup type products separated from your Roundup ground clear type products. The third pump sprayer I always have is I'll use the same pump sprayer for like insecticides and fungicides. I just clean them out really well. And then the fourth one I use for if I want to do any sort of foliar fertilizing. So I always mark them with a permanent black marker, and I never mix and match. Even if you clean them out, you can do that. You can get spray tank cleaners, or you can clean them out 3 or 4 times. I don't like to take that risk, and that's just my personal opinion. So I always keep my pump sprayers separate with Roundup like ground clear type products, insecticides and fungicides. I don't mind using the same one, and then like foliar feeding. Okay, so we talked a little bit about non-selective traditional, and that there's 2 different types there, right? There's the ones that kill just what's there, and ones that kill there and prevent more from coming. Okay, let's talk a little bit about organic non-selective. There's quite a few different things you can do here. There's commercial products you can buy ready to go. Here's one, this Fertilome again. I like Fertilome, like I said. This is a grass and weed killer. So when it says grass and weed, that just means non-selective. Like whatever it touches, it's gonna kill it. This is made up, it's ammoniated soap of fatty acids. So what these types do is they literally just burn the plant off. It will kill the tops off, and is usually pretty good. Usually requires multiple sprays to keep it under control, and depending upon your weed, how successful it is. So I've had some moderate success with this type. If you have a particularly pernicious weed that comes up from roots and rhizomes, it's going to be tough to stop this because this is just burning off the top of the plant. It's not systemic. It doesn't go inside of the plant. It coats the foliage and it burns it. Okay, that's kind of how this works. There's other modes of action of organic herbicides like vinegar. You've probably heard of using vinegar. And there's all sorts of like DIY recipes online of things you can mix up yourself. They all do the same thing. They're just burning the tops off. So just keep that in mind, is when you use an organic approach to a non-selective herbicide, most likely you're going to have to apply it multiple times. But the nice thing about these is that they're really safe. So once you spray them, your return entry interval is usually in here. You can start planting and do stuff in a much shorter period of time because it actually has to be coating the foliage in order for it to work well. So it's important to get good spray contact with something like the vinegars or the oils or the things like that, okay, and that are organic, non-selective. Okay, I'm gonna do one more thing on here, then I'll take some questions. And then I'm going to talk about some other ways you can prepare areas. So right here in the center, I don't know if you can read that, says additives. So I'm a huge fan of using spreader stickers or different types of additives. Sometimes people use dish soap, but I like to use one that's formulated for this type. This one in particular is called Herbicide Helper. Monterey makes a lot of different nice ones like this. What these do is it makes using herbicides safer and more effective. So you have to use less, which is good, because if I don't like to use chemicals, that's the type of person I am. But if I do, I want to do it as safe as I can. So what this does is it's kind of like, have you ever used Dawn on a greasy pan? You know, the reason why that works and it loosens it is because it spreads out the grease. It kind of like thins it out. So what this does is it like thins it out and makes it cover the entire leaf. It actually makes the droplets smaller. You know, chemically, that's what it does. It reduces the droplet size so it can get in between all the little teeny microscopic hairs on the leaf, and it can absorb, it can like spread out evenly all over the foliage. It's incredibly effective, and you don't need a lot. This little bottle will last me years. A lot of times it's a tablespoon you add into 2 or 3 gallons. Always follow the instructions, of course. Very safe to use. You can add this to any type of herbicides or pesticides. Always follow the label, of course. I even have used spreader stickers in liquid fertilizer to help the nutrients cling to the soil more instead of washing out the bottom, especially with like hanging baskets and things. So just a really cool trick to use. I think you save money, use less chemicals, and it makes them more effective. So it's just usually they're a little bit expensive. I think this was like 20 bucks for this, but it lasts forever. So I always suggest doing an additive. Another type of additive you can use with herbicides is like a colorant. It's like a sprayer marker. And so if you're going to go out and use some Roundup around some ornamentals, and what you can do that. You could take, and I've done this lots and lots of times. I do it out in my xeriscape garden out front where I have cactus and yuccas and things. I do Roundup, and I just take a cardboard and I kind of cover where I'm doing it. You can add a colorant and it'll tell you exactly where you're spraying. The colorant bleeds away after it rains, but it just makes sure that you understand what's happening with the drift. Of course, with all herbicides, you never want to spray when it's windy, like ever, because drift can go a long way. And as we know, roses are really, really delicately sensitive to herbicides. So, you know, this was kind of a 101. I'm not saying use herbicides in your rose garden in particular, but I wanted to just kind of give you some basic knowledge of how herbicides, and so you can know what to select. So let's take a few comments and questions, and then I'm going to talk about a couple other things. Smart idea with fertilizer. Yeah, you know, some of the most beautiful hanging baskets I've ever seen are fertilized with like a combination of like, you know, that typical blue crystallized fertilizer with a spreader sticker, because it holds it in there. And so even after you're watering later, it can hold some of it close. So let's see. I've done a bunch of DIY for my morning glory. Nothing has helped. Yeah, my morning glory is a beast. The really tricky part about morning glory is that its seeds can reside in the soil for 100 years. So morning glory is about being consistent, about not letting it flower, not allowing it get to the point of flower pre-emergence. And honestly, it's best if you use a mix of like a Roundup plus like a broadleaf weed killer on it. You can actually mix those two together. I've done it all the time, where you can mix Roundup and a broadleaf weed killer together to kind of strengthen the Roundup, and that helps with morning glory. So, but it's tenacious, that's for sure. So, you know, weed preventers, making sure it doesn't flower, and trying to kill it off as fast as you can. And you just got to keep on top of it, because it grows so quickly, it gets out of control so fast. Let's see. Let's see. I'd rather dig a 10-foot hole to dig out said weed than suit up and spray that. Kenzie, yeah. And that's fine too, right? Like if you just want to simply pull and get your weeds out by hand, that's another method, right? It's a mechanical method of weed control. There's all sorts of amazing weed tools out there. I've tried a lot of different ones, and I tend to like the ones that are claws that can get under and dig. There's the ones that have the little fork at the top where you can make sure to get the root and pop the root out. Another good thing about identifying for sure which weeds you have, you can understand what their root does. Some roots have a tap root. You think of like dandelions has a tap root, goes very, very deep. And some are very fibrous and go outward. And so once you understand the physiology of your weed, it'll also help you if you're just pulling, like, okay, I know I'm going to have to dig this tap root out. I need to get it out. So I need a specific type of tool. So yeah, I've done that too. Lots and lots of weeding in my time. Kenzie said, I can't believe Roundup is still sold. Yeah, it's really good to bring this up. So glyphosate is, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, has been known to be a carcinogen when it's used not properly. So anytime you use any sort of herbicide, you always want to read the PPE label. Like that's your personal protective equipment. Should you be wearing glasses, gloves? Do you need to suit up? Like what are all the things that you need to use? When I do use them, I make sure to be really, really careful. So I'm definitely not here to tell you to use Roundup. I'm definitely just here to kind of like educate you so you can make your own decisions on how you want to use it. But it's true, Roundup has been definitely a bad rap in the last few years, and for very good reason. But that's why there's lots of other non-selective herbicides out there that you can choose from besides glyphosate. Let's see. Sorry, I lost my, let's see if I can. Kenzie, Roundup is so dangerous. Please, please never use it. Let's see. Let's see if there's any other, let's see, running a bit late. Destroys my grass. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. Just trying to quickly scroll through all these. Tell me how to kill clover. Hold it. You know, clover is actually a nitrogen fixer. It's a legume, so it can be tenacious. That is for sure. With clover, I actually like to kind of like, if I haven't had a lot of issues with that here, but I did out east when I lived there. And if it was just clover, a lot of times I would just pull it and work it in, and because it has so much nitrogen in its foliage. But you know, it's a broadleaf, so there are specific herbicides that will prevent clover. So let's talk about some other ways, right? We talked about some organic and traditional herbicides, but what are other ways that you can get rid of grass and prepare for a new garden bed like I am? So if you guys ever had a sod shovel, I wanted to show you what a sod shovel looks like. I've used this lots of times, and it's very, very effective, actually. It's just important that when you're digging it out, you dig down at least 4 inches. And to get it out, you got to kind of slice it like you're slicing a piece of pie or slicing a piece of bread, or you're trying to like get out a piece of pie, right? So you kind of take a round pointed shovel and you make your cuts, and you dig it up, and then you use a sod shovel that has a flat edge that's really sharp, and you get under and you can shove it down under, and you're literally lifting up big pieces of grass. Now, depending upon what kind of grass you have, if you're in a warm climate and you have warm season grasses that spread by rhizomes, you're going to be really careful to get all of those pieces out. If you're in a temperate climate like I am, where I have like bluegrass and ryegrass as my sod, this is a very effective way of getting rid of sod. It is manually difficult. It's very, very heavy to remove sod this way, but it's quick, it's organic, it's clean, and it's how I always remove my sod. I tend to only go to an herbicide if I have a really tenacious problem in a specific area. I like to try and use everything I can and use these very, very last, right? I think it's like anything. It's like any insect or fungicide. There's a lot of cultural and mechanical things you can do to simply prevent. Preventative methods are always going to be the best, right? So when I have a very specific area in my gypsy garden, I need to take out some grass because I'm going to expand that garden around my turret. And I'm going to actually divide it out into pies, and I'm going to use all these different methods. I'm going to use sod shovel in one. The other method I want to talk about is you can use like plastic or mulch to kind of burn off anything. If you've ever had a water slip and slide in your yard for more than a week, you know what I'm talking about. That heat and that weight and that lack of sun can kill off the tops. And if you leave it long enough, it can kill off everything underneath it. So that takes time. It takes patience to do that. You can also use cardboard and heavy mulch for a season and just let it sit and kill off everything. And then you could pull it up or else work it in. You can use clear plastic. You can actually solarize your soil, which if you have a really bad problem with certain plants like morning glory that's dropped a lot of seeds, you may want to consider solarizing your soil. It's not for everybody. Solarizing takes an entire year, but if you wanted to do that, you could. You know, our better bare root rose grower solarizes their soil every year. The thing you need to remember is that kills everything in the soil. The main reason you do it is to kill weed seeds, but it'll also kill off any beneficial bacteria as well. So there's those other ways as well. There's tilling, there's all sorts of different other ways. So what I'm going to do, because I want to show you all these different ways you can do it, is I'm going to take my gypsy garden, I'm going to divide it into pies, and I'm going to try maybe Roundup in one. I'll try this organic grass and weed killer. Maybe I'll try vinegar in another. I'll try plastic in another. And then I'll just try good old-fashioned hard work to get my weeds out. But I will be using a pre-emergent on everything. Most of my weeds are fall germinators, so I'll be doing that. So I'm going to do that this week, and next time we come, I'll show you the results of that, and I'll show you how each one works. So anyway, do we have any other questions? Leslie says hi. Hi, Leslie. Carrie, very helpful. I'm glad. April says, I love spruce for around my patio because it smells delightful. Yeah, spruce is a brand. I've seen that. I think it's kind of like an organic brand. So like I said, lots of really different ways. Just remember, if it's non-selective or selective, it's organic or traditional, you're going to have about as many different brands out there as depending upon where, if you're in big box, you're going to see stuff like this. If you're an independent garden center, you'll probably see more stuff like Fertilome and Captain Jack's and spruce, I think I've seen in Walmart. So lots of different ones out there. April says 45% vinegar has been my go-to recently. It doesn't fix it, but it keeps the weeds from destroying my life. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why it doesn't fix it long term is because it's just burning the tops off, right? So just keep that in mind when you're using that sort of herbicide. It just requires multiple applications. It's not going to prevent anything from coming back. If it's a specific type of weed that can regrow from roots without top growth, it'll continue to return. So, but it is very effective. Let's see if it's all next to your roses. Okay. So, I mean, we're all rose growers here, right? I kind of gave you like herbicide 101, just general, right? So what happens when there's weeds around your roses? What can you do? Honestly, the best method is to hand pull them out. You need to be gentle, right? You don't want to take a tiller around your roses unless you're several feet out. I would suggest at least 2 feet out. If you have large paths that you can till, you can do that. You can lay down cardboard and mulch. You can lay down, I like cardboard and mulch because it breaks down and it adds to the soil eventually. You will want to use like a fertilizer with it because it needs to break down so it doesn't pull nitrogen out of your soil. So that's probably the best method. I'm not a big fan of recommending weed barrier for anybody. That stuff lasts, depending upon how good it is, for a couple of years, and then it just makes the problem worse, because suddenly you have bits and pieces of fabric everywhere that's caught inside of weeds. It's a very temporary situation. So I always recommend using kind of more of a natural barrier, like paper or cardboard. Like our estate boxes is a great way to recycle the cardboard that comes to you when we ship you roses. Use it as a natural mulch to kind of keep weeds at bay. Use a pre-emergent, put a cardboard down with some mulch, and just keep on top of hand weeding. That's really probably the best, most I think kind of natural, chemical-free way that you can use it. You can use an organic pre-emergent too. So let's see here. I get strong rooted clover in my containers. Yeah, clover loves containers. That is for sure. So it's a tough one. So, you could use commercial growers use pre-emergent in containers all the time. It's safe to use around established plants. So if you're comfortable using a pre-emergent, you can do that. Otherwise, pulling out of container is probably one of the best methods, especially around roses. Just be gentle as you're pulling, especially when they're deeply rooted, so you're not doing any damage. The best thing is to go out, look at your roses every day. The earlier you pick them out, the better, right? Their roots are small, they're easy to manage. Some weeds can go to seeds so quickly. Trisha says, I plant morning glory every season in New York, not invasive, doesn't survive the winter. Well, yeah, so the morning glory is like, it's a common name for several different types of flowers. Like there's a morning glory weed that has little white flowers and it spreads everywhere like crazy. And then there's like the morning glory that you plant to go over trellises, like the big, huge blue and purple and white flowers that are like this big, that are so pretty. I've used those lots in upstate New York too. So in some parts of the country, they can be, their seeds germinate really easily. So just make sure to pull them out before the pods form. Kenzie says she pulls them manually, but it's so annoying. No doubt. I hear you. You got to think of it as like outdoor, instead of going to the gym, you're going to pull weeds. April says, Roundup has an option with a wand with a shield. I use it anytime I have to use Roundup. Well, honestly, it doesn't even work here, so there's no point in risking it. Interesting that Roundup doesn't work for you, April. I wonder, because you're in such a hot climate, it doesn't work over certain temperatures. It's very specific temperature range. So just a little tidbit. I know Roundup is still sold. It's pretty crazy. I need a sod shovel. I planted clover this year, so excited. It's still alive in Texas heat. I'm hoping to transform my lawn into something that I don't need to ever water. Oh, good idea. That's a great idea. There's all different types of clover. There's like clover that's meant for like replacing lawns. Like there's many species of clover. Let's see. I use commercial vinegar and then put cardboard on top before mulch, and it works great. Amy Beth, that's awesome advice. I love that. Commercial vinegar, cardboard, and on top before mulch. So that's a great, really natural way to do it. Love it. So it sounds like a lot of you really prefer organic methods, kind of like I do. So what I can do is I can write a blog post specifically around different organic recipes, if you'd like, for natural weed control. And I can also do a blog on like just understanding herbicides in general, just so you have those tools in your toolbox as you're deciding what you want to use. Okay. April Howard, I may have missed it. What are the organic pre-emergents? There's one called corn gluten, April. I've used it in the past in my vegetable gardens. It works pretty good. It's pretty selective. It doesn't work on everything, but it literally is a byproduct of animal feed. And it's just it has a natural chemical that I think it's like an allelopathic chemical in it that prevents seeds from germinating. Just got to be careful. Like if you're trying to use it, like when I did in my vegetable garden, I only use it after my seeds are germinated, right? So, but in like an established plant like roses, it would work just fine. but it only really works on like things that germinate from seed, right? It's not going to prevent grasses from germinating from runners. Carrie's, I've been saving all my boxes and Amazon boxes. Yeah, it's such a great way. It's like free mulch. Let's see. What else is down here? According to Heidi, I should be Mrs. America for fitness. That's right, Holiday. You think as much as I garden that I'd be more fit. However, it doesn't work that way apparently when you're 45. Okay. All right. So I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. It's been almost an hour. I just wanted to show you a couple fun things. Let's see. What did I want to show you? So as you guys know, let's see, I'm going to take my camera. I hope this is okay. Yeah, all right. I wanted to show you my Lady of Shalott. Isn't she pretty? I grow her in a container. Most of my roses are in containers here. Because we bought this old house that needs lots of work. In fact, we're redoing the roof either later this year or next year. So we're not going to do any major landscaping except for this gypsy garden until we get our masonry work done and our roof. So I do most of my rose gardening here in Utah in containers. And our David Austin roses, select ones are 30% off. I got this Lady of Shalott last year as an estate rose, and it is enormous. But I want to tell you why I love this, because I love Lady of Shalott. If you need a beginner David Austin rose, for me, I think this is the one. This rose has been through hell and back. It has been eaten by deer down so many times before I finally put up a little temporary deer fence to put all my roses in. And the thing just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. So I really, really like it for that reason. So, having estate roses, David Austin estate roses, is such a huge honor for us. We're the only people that sell them online. And we have a really great relationship with David Austin. They love what we do and they support us. And we're excited to do a Prime Day deal with 30% off David Austin estate roses. So I hope you get one and grab one while we have them. We also have an amazing deal on Teasing Georgia. So sometimes, when you look at like when a plant is on sale so much, you're like, oh, is it like half dead or why are they clearancing it out? This was a case where the grower just, it was supposed to be something else and they got 600 of something of Teasing Georgia instead. So they're like, wow. So they gave us a great deal on it. So we're passing that great deal on to you guys. Teasing Georgia is an awesome rose for climbing. So now is a great time to get them. So we're going to keep them at this price until they're sold out. So we've already sold through probably at least a quarter of the crop that's sitting out there, but grab one while you can. I don't really foresee ever having a David Austin that cheap ever again in an estate size. So hope you grab one of those. I'm going to move my board here because I want to show you some other roses. You guys, if you joined me during my lives when I was planting bare root, I just want to show you some of my ones that I've been loving. This is you guys know I love limoncello, right? By the way, yay, happy birthday, America. So limoncello, this was planted from a bare root. In fact, I think it was on this live that I planted it in this pot. There must be 100 flower buds on this. It is just about to open. This is another one that got eaten down by the deer like a half dozen times. And the thing just keeps coming back. I forgot to water it a bunch of times. And it just is such a champ. So limoncello, we did a great deal on it this week. This is a drought tolerant rose. This is a landscaping rose that you want to put in mass. I think it's really pretty in container. I really enjoy singles. I think it's really fun to watch the pollinators come to them. Limoncello won a Blue Ribbon Award at the UC Davis irrigation trials, which means it can survive on less than 20% of its needed water and still be ornamental. So there's very few roses that have ever been given that honor, and limoncello is one of them. So you can see just how beautiful it is. This thing was chomped down 2 weeks ago from deer before I put it back in my deer fence. And in the next probably 3 or 4 days, it'll be fully open. So anyway, love limoncello. Sadly, it's getting cut by star roses and plants, so it's not going to be around for very much longer. So I would grab one while you still can. So unfortunately, I think it's because it's a single and it's yellow. It kind of has those two things against it, right? Everyone wants pink and high petal count and things. But if you're looking for a rose that you can plant and forget about it along pathways where you don't get water to it a lot, limoncello is incredible in mass. It's so beautiful. Anyway, I just think it's a great rose. Horticulturally, it's a fantastic performer. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. And I'm going to keep that and treasure that because limoncello will become hard to find in the coming years and virtually extinct from existence unless somebody keeps it in production. I wanted to show you, this is kind of fun. I love Powerpuff Pink. It's one of my favorite roses. I was a Star Roses and Plants when this came out. It blooms short and young, and so it blooms really quickly. I planted this bare root. Let's see. Remember how I got all my bare roots in Utah like super early? I brought them in January so I could do videos. Well, like it's still really freezing cold here. So like I put my bare roots through heck. I just kind of put them up against a wall, let them go. It took a little longer to come out because they would grow a little and get frozen. I like to challenge my plants. It's horticulturally interesting to me what happens. But it's incredible how quickly Powerpuff Pink grows and flowers. Not all roses are like that. Some roses need to get really big and really established before they'll really give you a show. Think of like Eden and Kiss Me Kate and some hybrid teas. Powerpuff Pink, it has such gorgeous rounded buds. Like it looks like a peony. It really is like a peony-shaped rose. Now my flowers are pretty small because this is young and it has a small root stock. And this is its first flush. Sometimes your first flush of roses is smaller, especially because we had an incredible heat wave here. But the thing is, that's what I like about it. I always like to look at roses in the stressful situation because if they can do this, when it was eaten by deer, pounded by heat and drought, like that's a good rose. That is a good rose. I like to look for roses when I go out and look at breeders' fields. I always say I want to come in the summer. I'm going to come in July. Like I'm going to go look at all of our next round of exclusives in July. I want to see what they are at their worst. When it's 100 degrees every single day. Like how do they survive that? Because that tells you a lot. That tells you pretty much everything you need to know about a rose. So the other thing I wanted to show you, do you guys remember when I planted you guys ever seen look at my cute sun-blazed rainbow pom-pom. I planted that on our lives together. I hope you can see it. Isn't that fun? It's so cute. People are always like, what is that? I'm like, it's a rose. The rose that has that's budded in 2 spots. That has 8 buds on it. 4 in the top, 4 here in the middle. So the pom-poms are really cool, really unique and different. They grow very few of them for the entire United States. There's literally like 100 to 150 of each variety, and like that's it. It's a very specialized crop, so it's kind of cool to grab one. I think we might have a few potted on the website, but we'll have them in bare root again this spring. I wanted to show you 2 other roses and I'll let you guys go that I think are kind of fun. Let me go grab this one. I'll be right back. You guys know I love polyanthas, right? We talked about drought tolerant roses. You guys know I like the weird stuff, right? I'm always going to show you the weird stuff. I'll let Gracie show you all the beautiful things. I think these are beautiful too, but I love polyantha roses. I always said if I can figure out how to tell people enough that everyone needs polyantha roses in their garden, no matter where you live, deep south, Canada, dry, humid, wherever you're at, polyanthas are incredible plants. They're incredibly aggressive. Aggressive isn't the right word. Incredibly prolific. I just love them. They're just bundles of lots of rose, and you know what? They're fragrant too. Like polyanthas have a lot of fragrance to them. They always have pollinators on them, and they're always blooming. This one is Pretty Polly. I think this is Pretty Polly Pink. There's Pretty Polly Pink, lavender, and white. The pretty polys also have blue ribbon awards for drought tolerance. They can be pretty and ornamental even in really, really difficult circumstances. So again, really great plant choice for maybe a difficult part of your yard where maybe you're not thinking like a major rose garden, or these could go underneath to cover your legs. So no matter where you live, I always say polyanthus are one of the few roses that can live like anywhere, rugosas and polyanthus. So I love polyanthus. I hope you all have some. If you don't, you've got to have one. If you're going to be a rose collector, you got to have a polyantha. And tell all your friends. And the last one I'm going to show you before I let you guys go is something that we're going to be releasing very, very soon. This is obviously, there's not much to look at. It's just starting to leaf out. I just got my friendly roses. We are so excited. I'm so excited. I'll have to tell you all the story. We'll do it more when we release it, but in a couple of weeks, we are going to be launching a 2-gallon version of friendly roses. These are bred by Mayon out of France. We have 3 colors and they are beautiful and gorgeous. This came to me completely defoliated like we always do, and it leafed out so fast. These roses are so healthy, and I couldn't be more excited. So keep an eye out for our release of friendly roses. They are exclusive to Grace Rose Farm. We have 3 colors and they make incredible bouquets too, because they're long-lasting singles. So really excited to be sharing these with you. You could actually look at what the actual plant is going to look like. That's a 2-gallon, and coming soon to our website. So keep an eye out for that. That's coming very soon. All right. Anything else? Ashley, Shropshire Lad. Oh my gosh. I had so many people messaging last night. Gracie showed a Shropshire Lad. I'm going to find out tomorrow. It is not on our growers availability. I don't know why she found one or how she found one, but I'll let you guys know tomorrow. And if there is some, I will buy them all and you guys can buy them. How's that sound? Let's see. These are the ones you guys talked about on the live with Mayon, correct? Yeah, Carrie, great memory. Yeah, this is one, if you guys are on with Mateus and Guillaume, Mateus Mayon and Guillaume is their breeder. They were the ones that they talked to us about it. And I've been working hard these last couple of months to get the exclusivity, and we finally got it. So they're wonderful roses. And if you love like the Dainty Bests and the singles, they're really beautiful. So they're truly a no spray rose. I still have a little bit left of my jar of honey that were a hive that was grown by a whole field of these in France, because they're safe. They're safe for pollinators and bees and honeymakers. I have a neighbor here that has bees. He always brings me jars of honey. So I brought him a whole bunch of these a couple of years ago when I was looking at them and testing them. And they're incredible. He doesn't do anything to them. They just bloom and bloom and bloom. And they always have pollinators on them. So really healthy, good plants. So we're excited to have those. So keep an eye out very soon. We're just waiting for our 2-gallon box. We've designed a brand new box that's smaller. We can do more affordable shipping on 2- and 3-gallon roses for you guys. So keep an eye out for that. Is there any last minute questions? Let's see. Do they like heat or cold? I'm assuming you're asking about the friendly. They're actually both. I've seen them growing in Pennsylvania. I grew them in upstate New York. We're zone 5, and I've seen them in commercial trials in California in zone 9 and 10. They grew good everywhere. That's the beautiful thing about them. Also saw them in the Southeast. We had a grower down there who was growing them commercially, and they loved them as well. So really good low maintenance roses, but have good vase life for single, right? When you think of shrub roses, you don't really think normally like, I'm going to cut that and bring that in. One of the reasons why they bred this and introduced this in Europe was like when you ship a rose that has single petals in a truck, they all shatter before they get there. So one of the features they were looking for in singles was a firmer petal that could handle shipping. So that's a great benefit for us because we get to use them in bouquets and they have a longer vase life. So, all right. Let's see. The singles are growing me. I've never been a fan before. I know, it's funny. Once you start having, I feel like this is people's general rose journey. Maybe their parents had a knockout or some sort of drift or a shrub rose in their yard. maybe you did, and then suddenly you realize, oh, there's something different, right? And then suddenly you experiment with things like perfume of bliss, or maybe a hybrid tea or a grandiflora, or you want a different color. And then suddenly you want to have all the fragrances and all the petals and all the things. And then people kind of come back to like kind of unique forms like singles or polyanthas, or something that has something really different that's really beautiful that you can enjoy in a different way, that gives a different texture in your garden. So I always feel like that's kind of the curve, but I don't know if it's that way with you guys, but that has been my curve, right? I knew everything there was to know about like knockout and shrub rose. They were everywhere. But then I fell in love with roses. When I was a sales rep, David Austin is where I started falling in love with different types of roses. Like I just couldn't believe that there were roses that fragrant and that beautiful. And now I come back and I love the horticulturally interesting ones where, wow, it's a heuthemia with a dark eye, or it's a cluster of small fragrant roses, or it's a single that opens up and like to enjoy like the stamens, and just the physiology of the rose becomes a little bit more of an art form, I think. So anyway, I enjoy them. I hope you guys will too. And I hope you'll try some friendly roses out when we introduce them coming up. Okay, will Dainty Best come back? I'm hoping so, Trisha. Hoping so. Very. We'll definitely have it again next spring for sure. I'm hoping we have some in the fall too, though. Samantha says, I bought many singles and people love them. Yeah, it's just a different flower form to enjoy, and you get to enjoy looking at their reproductive parts and just how interesting and beautiful they can be. They're like the lipstick of the garden. That's cute, Samantha. I like that. Are they fragrant, Diane? The friendlies are not that fragrant. No, not that fragrant. Probably why they hold their petals well. So a lot of times the more fragrant a rose, not always. That's why finding a really fragrant rose that holds its petal like Eloise Grace is really rare. So these ones do not have much fragrance to them. Reproductive parts. I know. That sounds so unromantic. Let's pretend I didn't say that. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining my live. I hope you learned a little bit about weed control, learned a little bit of herbicide 101. Like I said, this is not me telling you to go use Roundup or use pesticides. I use them very, very sparingly and only absolutely necessary in very specific situations. And that's just who I am. So hopefully this just gives you a little more tools in your toolbox. And keep an eye out for the blog that I'll post. All right, guys. Have a great day. And happy gardening. And if I don't see you, happy 4th of July. Bye, everyone.